Hello, everybody, and welcome to Grimwit with Dimwits. I'm T.
And I'm Blondie. And this week, we're going to do a couple shout-outs. I'm going to kick it off with Appomattox, Virginia. A little known fact about Appomattox, it was where one of the final battles of the American Civil War was fought. I'm doing my little historical bit right here.
I don't know if I should clap or what do I do right now?
Say, that's interesting.
Oh, that's interesting. Thank you for that little fact.
What is wrong with you?
We're going to switch this on over to a shout out to the country of Sweden. Hey is how they say hi. We're not going to mention if they fought each other.
You know what? Don't start with me.
Okay.
I thought that was interesting. And at least one other person is going to think it's interesting. So there.
All right. So there's our shout outs. Woo!
Yay. Thank you for listening, Appomattox in Sweden.
Thank you, Appomattox. I'm sorry about all that. Just thank you. They're like,
crazy.
We don't like to talk about that. Thank you guys very much.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably not.
So I have to tell you, I'm jealous of you right now.
You're always jealous of me.
No. Not on a regular basis, just on occasion.
I understand that completely. Nothing to be jealous of here.
I have seen you. I do know what you look like.
Exactly.
But I'm jealous because you got to go to the spa yesterday.
Oh, yes, I did. And I stayed all day. It was wonderful.
Did they have to turn the lights on saying it's time to go home?
Right. The music stops playing, the lights go off.
Right.
You ain't got to go, but you got to get the hell out of here.
That's right.
Oh, and come back tomorrow to work.
Oh, and by the by.
Well, actually, okay, so I'm acting like I had this fabulous day, and I did. Don't get me wrong. It was awesome. But I'm going to embarrass myself right now for your entertainment because I know you're going to love this. I haven't told you about this. So you've been there. You know, there's like these big pools, and then there's like a whirlpool, and they have all these fabricated rocks.
Uh-huh.
And so there was this great big fabricated rock in front of one of the whirlpools. And I took a friend with me, my sweet little friend. I just love her to death. And we decided to go from the cold pool, it was a little chilly out there, into the warm whirlpool. So we walk over and there's no place to put our stuff. So we just put our stuff on top of this big fabricated rock, right? And there's a couple of ladies in there kind of where the handrail is in the middle. So I see that there's steps on the side and I decide I'm going to go in that way. My friend goes through the middle, so she's already sitting down. I'm still organizing my stuff on the rock. And I start to put my leg down. You know how short I am.
Mm-hmm.
And I was trying to get a feel for where the step was. Well, it was a little lower than I felt comfortable going in forward. So I turned backwards. And
I'm already getting a visual.
Yeah, I know. And I continue to put my foot down, holding myself on that big rock, right? Steadying myself on that big rock. And of course, the step is way further because it's not a step, it's a seat. And I go all the way, boom, down on my back, all the way under the water, hit my knee on the step on the way down, hit my back on the bottom. That's how hard I fell.
You literally sunk.
I went down like an anchor. And then, of course, now, although I don't want to, I have to pop back up.
So your choices are pop back up or drown?
Do that little walk of shame. And there's a lady in there that we don't know. And there's another lady who got out during this time. I don't know because I really didn't care at that moment. And I got up and I just went like, I caught my breath because it's really hot. Like I wasn't expecting to be in there. And it's really hot all of a sudden, especially when you go in cold. And my friend is looking at me. She's like, are you okay? And I'm like, yes. And then the other lady who we don't know is like, are you sure you're okay? I'm fine. Thank you very much.
You know what my reaction would have been, right?
Oh, yeah, I know. Useless. And so
I would have been taking pictures.
I just sit there and I have to catch my breath. And I'm like, well, thank God there isn't a camera around. They both point to a camera. It's literally above my head. And I'm like, dang it. The lady goes, you're probably going to be on TikTok tomorrow. I'm embarrassed, of course, but what are you going to do? So I turn around and I sit in that stupid seat. And now I just have to sit there, and they're trying not to laugh, but we all just kind of get a giggle out of it. And my friend and I continue to talk. And again, there's this one lady still in there. And as we go to get out, we're there about 15, 20 minutes. And now I have to go to my service. So we're getting out in a hurry. I grab my stuff off the rock. She slips into her slippers and grabs her stuff. And the lady that's still in the whirlpool goes, "Excuse me, those are my slippers that you're putting on your feet?" Because they're spa slippers. They all look the same. And my friend was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. And she kicks him off, right? And the lady is so annoyed. She is so annoyed that my friend put her slippers on. And so we're just kind of looking at each other like, let's get out of here. And the lady turns around and goes, "Are you guys drunk?" I was like, "Excuse me?" She goes, "Well, I'm just saying." And it was like, oh.
Okay, lady, slow your roll.
Slow your roll. Yeah, Karen, calm down. I legitimately fell in because I'm an idiot. And we were in a hurry. And all my friend did was put your slippers on. Calm yourself down. I couldn't say anything because I work there. I'm already on camera.
Now I wish I would have been there. I totally would have been up on her business.
She's rolling her eyes. I'm like, what the heck just happened? This all went bad so fast. So there's my embarrassing little story from yesterday. So I might get pulled into the office and talked to for being drunk at work.
Again, I'm jealous. I would have totally just been there laughing my butt off.
I know. And I think you're more jealous now because you missed out on that little episode.
Totally.
And you would have been drunk. So anyways, there's my little story from yesterday. But other than that, we had a great time. So what is our story going to be about this week, Miss Blondie?
Well, continuing with the fall holiday theme, this story is about a typical family holiday that took place in Knoxville, Tennessee.
So let's clarify that if this is in Knoxville, Tennessee, you mean a typical American family holiday, because don't forget, we have listeners all over the world now. And yes, I am tooting our own horn. Toot, toot.
Okay, I will clarify. Yes, a typical American family holiday.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So as winter's approaching, the leaves are changing to all the beautiful fall colors. And one of the last holidays for 2016 is coming up. On November 24th, it's Thanksgiving. Joel Guy Sr., 61, and Lisa Guy, 55, have been married for 31 years. They have 4 children, Shandis, Michelle, Angela, and Joel Jr. Try and say that 3 times fast.
Right.
Plus, they have 6 grandchildren. The guys are sad and excited for this Thanksgiving since it will be the last one in their family home.
Oh, no. Are they losing or are they selling?
They're selling it.
Oh, okay.
Joel Sr. and Lisa are retiring and want to downsize. They sold their home and are moving to East Tennessee to enjoy the great outdoors and to spend time with their children and grandchildren. Michelle and her boys, Michelle's boyfriend, and Joel Jr. came to Thanksgiving dinner. It was very nostalgic time filled with memories, good food, and Joel Jr. played with his nephews, showing him his old toys. After the festivities were over, everyone left. I remember those Thanksgivings at my parents'. I didn't want to leave because I was in a food coma.
I love that food coma. I'm totally guilty of it for every major holiday. Like Christmas, Easter, Shark Week, Wednesday.
Yes, I get that.
Only the big ones.
That's right. On November 28th, 2016, the Knoxville County Sheriff's Department received a call from Lisa Guy's supervisor from Jacobs Engineering. She had become concerned when Lisa hadn't arrived at work for her planned retirement party. Her supervisor had called the house number and the cell number with no answer or return call. She asked if they could send someone over to check on her. An officer was dispatched to do a welfare check. The guy's 2-story house was in a very quiet neighborhood on Golden View Lane. The officer noticed 2 cars in the driveway. He knocked and rang the doorbell with no response. He went around back to see if he could see anything, but there was a fence with a locked gate, and he couldn't enter safely. So he let dispatch know and left. I thought that was kind of strange for a welfare check that he didn't actually check her welfare.
Yeah, it is kind of strange, but I wonder if they're like able to do more because they can't break down a door without a warrant, I don't think, or some kind of extreme circumstance, right?
No, they can't go in unless they think there's some kind of, or break down a door unless they think there's some kind of immediate danger.
Right. Okay. So, I mean, he was kind of stuck, I guess.
Yeah, I guess you're right. An hour had passed. Lisa's supervisor made a second call to the sheriff's department since Lisa still hadn't shown up and she still couldn't get a hold of her.
Wow. Only after another hour, her friend was all over it again. That's a pretty good friend.
I would say so. Detective McCord got involved at that point and thought it was odd that she hadn't shown up or let anyone know that she wasn't coming, especially since there was a celebration in her honor. The detective and another officer went to the guy's home to check it out. A supervisor, along with an additional officer, also showed up. They saw the neighbor's garage door open and went over to see if she had seen the guys. She told them that their kids were over for Thanksgiving, but didn't know much more. They already checked, and the 2 cars in the driveway did belong to Joel Sr. and Lisa, which would make you think that someone was possibly home. One of the detectives went to the front door. It didn't appear that there was a forced entry, so he looked through the glass pane and saw grocery bags and beer on the floor. You know, things that you would want to put in the fridge immediately when you get home. This gave them a bad feeling.
So now I'm wondering why didn't the first cop make the effort and look in the window?
Didn't see anything strange outside, so didn't go in, maybe? I don't know.
Now it seems like he took the lazy way out.
They continued to look around outside when an officer noticed one of the cars was unlocked. He went inside and found a garage door opener. They went through the garage with their weapons drawn towards the inside door. They started to announce their presence when they heard a dog howling. Going through the door, they were hit by a heat bomb. The temperature was like 20 degrees hotter. One of the detectives had explained that as soon as they went in, they immediately started sweating.
Gross.
As they walked through the house, they noticed the stove was on, and there was a chemical stench in the air. On the table, they saw wallets and cell phones.
What the heck? Who would leave the stove on? And especially with, it sounds like chemicals in the house.
We'll have to find out. Clearing each room, they noticed on the dining room table a bunch of shotguns laid out, like someone was getting ready for a standoff. They walked by the front door where the groceries were and went to go upstairs. I can only imagine the tension and anxiety while they're walking through the house with their guns all drawn as they're moving. Now, if it was me, I would hear like a floor creak. I'd jump and shoot the guy ahead of me in the butt.
I'm glad that you're pre-planning to shoot him in the butt. And I'm also making a mental note not to walk ahead of you when you're armed.
Come on, where's your sense of adventure?
Oh, yeah, not that adventurous.
Going up the stairs, the officer's skin starts to have a burning sensation, and the chemical odor is overwhelming. At this point, I wondered why didn't they have masks on?
I mean, would they normally just to go into it? I mean, it's probably in the moment. You know what I mean?
Maybe. But I mean, if you walk in and you smell chemicals, that'd probably be the first thing I'd do.
Oh, yeah. I'd mask up for sure.
At the top of the stairs was what appeared to be blood on the floor and on the stairway wall. There was a closed door where the dog was, but they didn't open the door. This was hard on me because you know there's a dog in there, but I can understand why they didn't.
Yeah. I mean, that dog could mess up the scene, running out, or it could be a vicious dog. They don't know.
Right? One officer went into the master bedroom, while another went the other way to a room at the end of the hall. He walks in and sees a corner of the room covered in blood and 2 severed hands that look to be deliberately placed, standing upright with interlocking fingers that made it look like they were praying.
Okay. I was definitely not ready for bloody human praying hands. What the heck?
Exactly. In the master bedroom, it was something out of a mad scientist laboratory. There was food-grade hydrogen peroxide, muriatic acid, extension cords, vice grips, timers, and plastic on the ground.
Okay, all that sounds really horrible, but food grade hydrogen peroxide is the scariest thing of all. I had no idea we could consume that.
I have never heard of it. I didn't know there was a food grade
Yeah, what the heck?
version of it.
What do you use it for?
Probably a good thing we haven't heard about it. in the master bathroom was, are you ready?
I don't know. This is getting really bizarre.
Plastic sheeting covered in blood, a K-bar knife, and 2 big blue tubs, the kind you use for storage, with human remains soaking in some type of chemical mixture. The only room left to clear is the room with the dog in it. They didn't go in because they were unsure if someone was in there with him. They called for backup, and after issuing commands, no one came out. So they went in, and the pup came running out. They took it over to the neighbor's house to be looked after. They said she asked what was going on, but they couldn't answer because it was an ongoing investigation. I mean, honestly, I wouldn't assume anything good.
Yeah, me neither. And I'm really glad that the dog is alive, but now I'm scared, like what was in there with the dog?
The whole time they were doing the house, I kept thinking, hurry up and let the dog out. Hurry up and let the dog out.
I was thinking the same thing, but you know they can't.
I know. The guy's daughter, Michelle, is contacted to meet the officers someplace besides her parents' house for obvious reasons. They tell her what was going on and that they believe the remains found in the house are those of her parents. She was pretty upset and asked a lot of questions that they had no answers for. They asked about Thanksgiving. She told them who was there that day and said once the evening was over, everyone left and went home. She agrees to provide pictures of all the family members.
Oh, I have a really bad feeling about all of this.
The guy's house is an active crime scene, which means the forensic team has to come in and gather all the evidence. It also means that nothing can be touched until all of this is done, including turning all the heat sources off. Besides the heater being all the way turned up and the stove on, there were space heaters throughout the house.
So basically, someone turned on every heat source available, and it sounds like they even dug up some more. I wonder if they were trying to speed up decomposure of the bodies.
I think that's where it was heading.
Okay, so if you walk into a house and every you're telling me they were not allowed to turn down the heat at all, even though it makes it a more dangerous situation with all the chemicals in there?
That's just what they said. They said they went back after talking to Michelle and all the heat sources were still on.
Oh, heck no. That's like a bomb waiting to go off.
Oh, I fully agree. The forensic team goes from room to room. They come across a pile of clothes, including a bra, with scissors on top. These clothes had cut patterns like they were cut off someone. Next to the pile of clothes was blood stains on the walls and the floor. It is believed that this is where one attack occurred. The room at the end of the hall, where the blood in the corner was found, is where the second attack happened. I think the large amount of blood was a dead giveaway.
Literally.
In this room was workout equipment that was overturned, knife marks on a futon, and a pile of clothing that appeared to have been cut off with a pack of cigarettes sitting on top of it.
That is such a weird little quirk for this killer to be cutting off clothes and then piling them up, must be kind of neatly, and putting something on top of the pile. What's the deal with that?
Just at this point, I would think that there's some kind of plan with this and maybe they're starting to tidy because they're going to have to pick stuff up eventually. With everything they found, it looked like the two people suffered a brutal death. Whoever did this used a variety of tools and kitchen knives and had knowledge of anatomy. The concoction they were placed in was a combination of hydrogen peroxide, drain cleaner, and possibly bleach. The hazmat team had to be called to deal with the liquid because obviously it was hazardous to the skin.
So are you saying that part of their bodies were already in this mixture solution?
Their entire bodies were in this mixture solution.
Except for like the praying weird hands?
Except for the hands.
Disgusting.
At this point, the police are wondering who could have done this. It seemed planned, and the way the bodies were disposed of looked like it might have been a contract killing. The officers walked through the neighborhood to see if anybody had seen anything or noticed anything strange. The basic questions are asked. Were there any domestic issues? Were there issues with them owing people money, or maybe something going on with one of their jobs? But there wasn't anything out of the ordinary. They lived a very good and happy life. While gathering evidence, they came across a Walmart receipt dated after Thanksgiving that showed the purchase of rubbing alcohol, peroxide, and other items. The reason why the receipt is important is because it is date and time stamped. So they're starting to get a window of possibility when the murders could have happened. Thanksgiving was on November 24th, and the receipt is dated the 26th, 2 days after, and at around 3 in the afternoon. Downstairs, where the grocery bags were left on the floor, officers find another receipt that was also from Walmart. It was also dated the 26th, but around noon.
That's really weird.
Now, the next step is a no-brainer. While the forensic team looks for more clues, the officers go to Walmart to look at the video footage of November 26th. Lisa Guy arrives at Walmart at about 12:30 p.m., makes her purchases, and leaves. This most likely was the last time anyone had seen her alive. The detectives continue to look at the footage for the 3 p.m. time frame when they see someone they recognize. Lo and behold, they see Joel Guy Jr. checking himself out and paying cash. This is quite a surprise since he's supposed to be in Baton Rouge. They also notice that his hands were injured and all wrapped up.
That is exactly the bad feeling that I had. Oh my gosh.
It's kind of intuitive at this point.
Right?
The officers contact Michelle again to ask her if she was sure that her brother went back to Baton Rouge, but she wasn't exactly sure when he left. She got to thinking about it and was telling the officers that normally Joel Jr. was unsociable and pretty much a recluse, but this Thanksgiving he was sociable and being a loving uncle to her kids, which she found odd.
That says an awful lot when your sister thinks it's weird that you're acting like a good uncle.
Very telling.
Very, very telling.
Joel Jr. was a 28-year-old college student. His parents paid for his college and his living expenses in Baton Rouge. I was going to say something about him being 28 and still in college, but I went back to college when I was older than that, but I did pay for it myself.
Well, yeah. I mean, unless you're out of high school, you should pay for yourself. You're not a kid anymore, and you're a grown-up deciding to go back to school. It's your responsibility.
So while we're talking about education, just a little side note about Joel Jr. When he was younger, he went away to boarding school, not because his parents sent him away, but because he asked to go.
What? He wanted to get away from his parents?
I don't know, but I just thought that was a little interesting side note.
Was he still a kid, like a teenager?
Yeah, he was younger, yeah.
Wow. And they indulged him?
They did.
Well, I'm sorry, but they should have known something was up.
Yeah. But who requests to go to boarding school?
Well, I could see someone doing it for, the experience, and probably if he went abroad, that would be pretty exciting.
Mm-hmm. Maybe.
But it doesn't sound like he was an exciting dude. It sounds like he was a weird dude.
So the investigation continues, and the remains are sent for DNA analysis. 24 hours later, the identifications are confirmed. Joel Guy Sr. was identified by the fingerprints of the severed hands, and Lisa Guy's DNA was confirmed through her toothbrush.
Why her toothbrush? Was there nothing else left of her?
Whatever they could get from one of the tubs, and they needed something else that had her DNA on it.
Wow. I have horrible visuals in my head right now. That is so sad.
And I mean, if you rinse your toothbrush, how much DNA is left? That is a good question.
Well, there's always going to be some remnant on there. I mean, unless you're disinfecting it every time.
Interesting. There was an extraordinary amount of evidence that was collected at the scene, including a backpack that was in the guest room. Inside the backpack was a manifesto in a notebook detailing the murders. There was an elaborate plot of how the murders were to take place. There were notes about different chemicals that speeds up decomposition, and that handy tip about the heat accelerates decomposition and deterioration of DNA and fingerprints. See, you're right.
I knew it. I've been listening to true crime too long.
It was literally a detailed step-by-step book about how to commit and cover up murders written in Joel Jr.'s handwriting, along with several medical books and a class syllabus that belonged to Joel Guy Jr. All this upstairs while he's downstairs having family dinner? What the heck?
I know every parent loves their kids, no matter what. But how do families keep telling themselves that their kids are not harmful to others when they're this far gone socially. There's a reason why they don't connect.
True. It sounds like this was him, so they just accepted him for who he was. He was a recluse. He was socially inept. He didn't communicate.
Yeah, but I mean, don't they think that is kind of a mental disorder in some way, especially when, like you were saying earlier, he's trying to get away from them as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
There's just something wrong with the whole picture.
He's away in college, so how much interaction they have with him at this point, who knows? They may not have seen him very much, just thought this is who he is. He's off living his life.
I get it. It just sounds like they're feeding his instability.
No, you're probably right.
I'm not trying to blame them. I'm just saying it'd be nice if people recognize things before something like this happens.
The notebook also contained the assets of Joel Sr. and Lisa, listing what they had, how much they were worth, and what they were worth dead, which was about a $500,000 life insurance policy, and a handy little entry that showed how much Joel Guy Jr. would inherit once they passed. Talk about premeditation.
Well, yeah, and now I'm wondering, did his little calculation include splitting the inheritance with his siblings, or was he going to knock them off as well? I mean, for all of this hard work, I'd be surprised if he didn't want all the money.
I'll be surprised as well. Detectives would like to have a conversation with Joel Jr., so they track down his home address, get his car and license plate information, and see that through license plate readers, he left Sunday night, the 27th, and headed back to Baton Rouge. Knox County Sheriff's Office reaches out to homicide detectives in Baton Rouge to have them start surveilling Joel Jr. The two Knox County detectives headed to Baton Rouge, and while en route, they got information from ATF in Baton Rouge that on Monday after Thanksgiving, which would have been the 28th of November, Joel Guy Jr. had purchased a firearm at a shop by where he lived. And remember, he had those injuries on his hands?
Mm-hmm.
Well, apparently, he was filling out the paperwork and bleeding all over them, which kind of was like a big red flag for the shop owner that something is wrong. I would refuse to sell it to him.
You're right. I mean, how did they ignore that literal bright red flag?
And I wonder if they contacted ATF. That's how they knew so fast.
That's a weird scenario, though. Like someone comes in, they're bleeding and filling out a form to buy a firearm. It's a very strange scenario. I'd be sitting there going, there's something not right here, but what could you actually think it was? Like what could you do about it?
No, I get it. Actually, my thought process went to revenge or retribution.
That's where my thought process would go too. Like this guy's buying a gun because he's all jacked up right now. So something's about to go wrong, but how can you prove that?
Well, you can't. You can't. I think that's why they got notified.
Yeah, he could have been trimming rose bushes. Who knows?
Okay, stretch.
I was trying to think of a way he could get his hands all jacked up because my hands have been jacked up by roses before. I'll tell you that.
So now I know what to get you for Christmas. Gardening gloves.
I thought you were going to say roses. I was like, wow, what kind of friend are you?
Gardening gloves. Crazy.
Oh, I went the totally other way.
So I wondered why he bought a firearm. I mean, there were some at the house on the dining room table, and his parents were already dead. But in that handy-dandy little notebook where he was trying to figure out who gets what and how much between him and his siblings, he figured that his share would be increased if he basically took his siblings out.
There it is. He's treating this like a math equation because he has no emotions. And he also thinks nobody will guess it was him. That is so delusional.
You called it.
Yeah, like what a psycho.
So they bumped Joel Jr. up from let's just have a conversation to he's now dangerous. So they had the Baton Rouge Police Department apprehend him. Oh, you think?
Right?
They put him in a holding room to interview him, but he refused to talk. And he was cold and soulless. Didn't you just say that?
Yeah, he has no emotions whatsoever. I mean, this is crazy. And part of me is like, how do I predict all this stuff? What's wrong with me?
I have started a very long list.
I know. I'm like, wow, I should not be on top of this so quickly. There's something wrong here. I might be a bit tainted.
Just a little bit.
A little tiny bit.
A tiny bit. So the officers didn't have to tell him that his parents were dead, and he didn't ask about them. He was arrested for their gruesome murder.
Again, the family had no clue that he was capable of any of this. I'm not trying to point fingers. I'm really not. You just wish people had done something about his weirdness earlier.
After his arrest, officers went to his residence, and they found pretty much an identical scene in his home that was at his parents' home, with the exception of the human remains. About 18 days before the murders happened, he had been to a bunch of different stores purchasing tools and chemicals to test and get ready to commit the murders. They found what looked like a dog bone in one of the bins. He was trying to figure out the right chemicals to deteriorate remains.
This guy is the devil incarnate.
Horns and all.
Yeah.
What was the catalyst? Joel Sr. and Lisa had basically worked to finance Joel Jr.'s life. They were getting ready to retire, and a few months before Thanksgiving, his parents had told him that they were going to stop giving him money at the end of the year. They paid for his apartment, his food, his car, and his car insurance. And as far as anyone knew, he never worked a day in his life. Like so many of the crimes out there, it was all about the money.
We were just talking about this the other day. It seems like the more parents give, the worse the kids are. I mean, we weren't talking about this at murder level, just entitled level, but entitlement can lead to murder because people get desperate.
They can't think of any other way out.
Yeah, like don't get a job or anything. I mean, that's crazy.
No, you're exactly right. September 28th, 2020, the trial begins. There was so much forensic evidence that 7 or 8 forensic officers had to testify. How that day on November 26, 2016 went down came out during the trial. Joel Sr. was upstairs in the workout room when Joel Jr. came in with the 7-inch K-bar knife and attacked him. He stabbed his father 42 times with the blade going in 6 to 7 inches into his body. That's some brutal anger.
Yeah. There's like no conscience there at all.
I don't even know where your mind goes when somebody does something like that. Lisa was attacked by her son at the top of the stairs. She was stabbed 31 times and with so much force that 7 of her ribs completely severed.
Oh my God. That is, wow. Shocking.
Joel Jr. cut off their clothing in preparation of fitting them into the tubs. He dislocated his father's body at the hips and the shoulders. He also removed his hands at the wrists and left them in that praying position. Lisa was dislocated at her elbows and her knees. He then placed each one of them in a blue tub. A forensic investigator said in her testimony, quote, "And then he covered them with a corrosive substance and left them there to liquefy in some sort of diabolical stew of human remains," end quote.
Oh my God. And again, all this just to avoid getting a job and paying his own damn bills. That is true insanity. And you know what? He really didn't think this through, because if they just disappeared, like it sounds like he wanted them to, how was he going to get the insurance to pay out? Doesn't it take like 7 years for people to be declared dead?
I thought the same thing. Among other things, he's supposedly planned this so well in his book. There were so many pieces. It seemed like he wasn't really thinking about every little aspect. And they said that, he left on the 27th, which was Sunday, and they think that he left because of the injuries to his hands, that he was going to go get help in Baton Rouge. Why there, I don't know. But he had every intention of coming back.
To me, it sounds like because he's not a grown-up, because mom and dad take care of everything, he doesn't know how life works. Maybe he thought there would be an immediate payout of the insurance, but he's still got to go kill the rest of his family. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, he obviously doesn't get it and didn't understand how it works, because his plan was not going to work in his favor.
And I wonder if buying the gun with the intent of killing his siblings, I wonder that. And they never said that that's what it was for. It was just kind of assumed.
Well, wouldn't he have to kill his siblings and their children? He's got to make sure there's no other people to inherit.
Yeah, he wasn't thinking any of this big picture.
Because he's not a big boy. I'm serious. It's like, you don't even understand how life works. How are you going to commit a crime and think it's going to work out?
During the trial, one of the officers said he caught Joel Jr. laughing several times, like he was proud of what he'd done, like he didn't think he was going to get caught and actually enjoyed it.
Psycho.
Joel Guy Jr. was convicted of 2 counts of premeditated first-degree murder for the killing of his parents, along with 2 counts of abuse of a corpse for the way he disposed of their bodies. He was given 2 consecutive life sentences, totaling at least 124 years in prison.
Thank goodness for that. At least he's not on the streets anymore and his siblings are safe. But what makes me mad is he's actually getting what he wanted. He's going to be taken care of for the rest of his life.
Everything's going to be paid for him.
Everything.
And he doesn't have to get a job.
And he could probably get surgery or anything he needs, all of that for free, which I don't get as a taxpayer.
Oh, let's not go down that road.
I'm already mad. I'm mad that he's in prison and everything's going to be, and then I'll be mad if he's not in prison. Maybe I'm just mad.
Angry woman.
Angrier.
Okay, I just pictured the Hulk.
I'm like, is it better to kill or not to kill? I don't know. I'm still figuring this out.
I'm so confused.
Oh, God. I don't know.
At 34 years old, Joel Jr. filed for appeal based on the fact that police entered his home without a warrant and he had some reasonable expectation of privacy.
Reasonable?
Reasonable.
Okay.
His public defender wrote a 125-page motion arguing the difference between a part-time resident or overnight guest. Either category gave him his right to privacy. So they're basically saying since he lived there, whether he was part-time living there, a guest or not, they should have gotten a search warrant.
You know, these defense attorneys who try to get these psychopath murderers out on a technicality should be mandated to have the psychopaths come live in their own homes with their own families. Because if they believe so strongly in releasing them, that's where they should go. And I'll tell you what, this problem would be fixed overnight.
Well, in this case, Joel Jr. would have loved it because he would have been taken care of.
Yeah.
A year later, a judge denied his motion and said there were exigent circumstances and they were allowed to go in.
I love to hear when a judge isn't manipulated by the nonsense out there and does the right thing.
Me too. Quote, I hope and pray that this family, they're able to take a step forward, remember the good times, and have positive interactions around the holidays. That's my hope for them, but I don't know if they will ever be able to, end quote, said Detective McCord.
That's a very sad story.
And for what, money?
Money that he wasn't even going to get the way he thought he was going to get it.
Money he felt entitled to.
Yeah. Money he felt entitled to as a person who didn't have a productive day in his entire 28 years of living. Truly sad. Really, really sad that his parents had to die. And the way he did it was, wow, shocking.
And I'm sad for the family that every Thanksgiving, that's what they're going to think about.
Right? I know. Well, thank you for bringing this story and all these gruesome details to us. I'm never going to see a praying hand statue the same, ever. You've ruined that for me. We just want to thank everybody for listening. Don't forget to take care, have fun, and let your grimaginations run wild. Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. We just want to thank you all for sharing your time with us. And if you'd like to send in your creepy little grim bits, we would love to hear your personal stories, interests, and suggestions. Please email them to grimwitwithdimwits@gmail.com. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram at grimwitwithdimwits, X at grimwitwithdimwits, Facebook grimwitwithdimwits, and YouTube grimwitwithdimwits. Join us every Monday for new episodes, and feel free to share us with your grim-loving friends.
We would really appreciate if you would take a minute to rate and review 5-star ratings go a long way and would really help us out. Until then, we would love it if you'd come back next week to delve with us into the strange and unusual things we just can't wrap our skulls around.